Your mother dies on a Tuesday and you feel nothing. The call comes through on your cell phone while you're standing at Gate B7 in Terminal 1 of O'Hare International Airport. It is October 2020 and the terminal is almost empty. The pandemic has hollowed out the concourses like a drought hollows out a riverbed. You listen to your sister describe the hospital, the ventilator, the way the nurses held the phone to your mother's ear at the end. You say the right words, you say them in the right order, but inside there's only the low hum of the terminal's ventilation system. You hang up and look at the departure board. No flights tonight. Almost no flights any night. Now you were supposed to fly home to Los Angeles 3 days ago. Your booking was canceled, then your rebooking was canceled, then you stopped rebooking. You're not sure when the decision hardened, but somewhere between the third cancellation and the phone call about your mother, you stopped trying to leave. You sit down on the row of connected seats near the gate. The armrests divide each seat from the next. They are bolted at precise intervals. You cannot lie flat across them. This is not an accident. This is Foucault's disciplinary architecture made aluminum and vinyl. The armrest is not a place to rest your arm. It is a wall. It tells you that sleeping here is not a thing that is done. You sleep here anyway. You fold yourself into the seat like a letter into an envelope. Your carry-on bag becomes your pillow. The overhead lights stay on. They always stay on. There is no night inside an airport. There's only a fluorescent permanence that flattens time into a single unbroken present. By the third day, you learn the cleaning crew schedule. They come through at 2 in the morning and again at 5. They push wide dust mops down the terrazzo floors. They empty trash cans into rolling bins. They do not look at you. They are not paid to look at you. Security is paid to look at you. But security is looking for threats, not residents. You're not a threat. You're a man with a rolling suitcase and a jacket draped over your shoulders. You look like every other stranded traveler in the age of COVID. The difference is that the other stranded travelers eventually leave. Marc Auger, the French anthropologist, coined a term for places like this in 1992. He called them non-places, airports, highways, hotel lobbies, spaces defined by transit spaces that resist identity, spaces where no one accumulates history. His argument was elegant. A non-place is where you are nobody because nobody is from there, but Auger never considered what happens when someone refuses to leave a non-place. When you stay in a non-place for a week, then 2 weeks, then a month, does it become a place? Does it grow a history? Or does it remain what it was, and you become something less than a person inside it? You find a routine. Mornings you sit near the food court and wait. Other passengers buy meals they cannot finish. A woman in a surgical mask offers you half a sandwich on the 4th day. Are you waiting for a connection? She asks. Yes. You say, it is the truest lie you have ever told. You're waiting for a connection. You have been waiting for a connection your whole life. She smiles and walks toward her gate. You eat the sandwich slowly. It is turkey and Swiss on sourdough. It is the best meal you have had in days. Your sister calls again. She wants to know when you're coming for the funeral. Soon, you say, you do not go. The funeral happens without you. Your sister sends you a photograph of the casket covered in white lilies. You look at it the way you look at the departure board. Information received. No emotional response generated. This is not cruelty. This is the shape of your interior life. You have never known how to perform the feelings that others seem to produce effortlessly. Grief for you is an abstraction. Love is a word that refers to a pattern of behavior you can imitate but not inhabit. You discover the airport has showers. There's a lounge near Concourse K that charges $12 for a hot shower and a towel. You pay for this twice a week until your money begins to run thin. Then you find the family restroom near gate C9 where the sink is large enough to wash your hair. You discover the airport has a pharmacy, it has a chapel, it has charging stations and free Wi-Fi and climate control set to a permanent 68 degrees. The French writer Georges Perec once sat in a Paris square for 3 days and wrote down everything he saw. He called this an exhaustion of place. You're doing something similar, except the place is exhausting you. By the 6th week, you know every tile pattern in the terminal. You know which outlets work and which do not. You know that the Starbucks near gate B11 throws out pastries at 9 p.m. and that the janitor named Marco will sometimes leave them on the counter for 30 seconds before he bags them. You know that the automated announcement, "Attention all passengers, the TSA threat level is orange," plays every 14 minutes. You have heard it over 3,000 times. It has become the metronome of your existence. There is a woman who works a newsstand near your usual sleeping gate. Her name is Delia. She has short gray hair and reading glasses on a beaded chain. She begins to notice you still here, she says one morning. Still here, you say. She does not ask why. She brings you a newspaper sometimes. Day-old copies she would otherwise return. You read them cover to cover. The world outside the terminal is falling apart in ways that feel distant. Election, virus, protests. Inside the terminal, these things are images on mounted televisions with the sound turned off. Delia is your ally, though she does not know this word applies. She is simply a person who sees you without requiring you to perform being seen. She never asks about your feelings. She never asks if you are okay. She offers you a newspaper and a nod, and this is enough. The Italian philosopher Giorgio Agamben wrote about what he called bare life. The concept comes from his reading of ancient Roman law. There existed a figure called homo sacer, a person who could be killed by anyone without legal consequence, but could not be sacrificed in a religious ritual. This person was excluded from both human and divine law. They existed in pure biological fact, stripped of political identity. The international transit zone of an airport is the modern architecture of this exclusion. You have not cleared immigration into any country. You're not legally in Chicago. You're in the terminal, which is a space that exists outside the normal order. You're free to move, but you have nowhere to go. You are alive, but you're not, in any civic sense, present. You think of Mehran Karimi Nasseri, the Iranian man who lived in Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris for 18 years. From 1988 to 2006, he sat in the same red plastic seat on the lower level of the terminal for nearly 2 decades. He read magazines. He kept a diary. Airlines gave him meal vouchers. His refugee papers had been lost or stolen or never properly existed, depending on which version of the story you believe. He could not leave the terminal because no country would take him. He could not go back because Iran had expelled him. He was not imprisoned. He was simply unplaceable. Steven Spielberg turned his story into a Tom Hanks movie in 2004. They made it charming. They gave it a love story. They did not include the part where Nasseri went slowly, quietly mad. They did not include the part where he returned to the airport years later and died there in 2022. On a bench not far from the one where he had spent his best and worst years. You're not Nasseri, you have a passport, you have a home, technically, in Los Angeles. But the distance between having a home and being able to live in it has widened into something impassable. The pandemic has made your apartment a place of isolation that feels more confining than this terminal. Here at least there is movement, here at least there are strangers. In your 11th week, something happens. A man bumps into you near gate F3. It is late past midnight. He is drunk. He is loud. He calls you a word you do not want to repeat. You do not feel anger. You feel a kind of clarity, like static resolving into a signal. You push him. He falls. His head strikes the edge of a metal bench with a sound that you will remember for the rest of your life. He does not get up. Security arrives within minutes. Paramedics arrive within 10. The man survives, but barely. A fractured skull, bleeding in the brain. Now the system sees you, now you're visible. The police discover that you have been living in the terminal for nearly 3 months. They find the discarded airport ID badge you had picked up in a bathroom and worn around your neck to blend in. They charge you with criminal trespass and aggravated battery. The trespass is the interesting charge. The same behavior, sleeping in a terminal, is a $30 per hour luxury if you book a Go Sleep pod, or a criminal offense if you sleep in a chair without paying. The class line runs straight through the act of lying down. At trial, the prosecution does something unexpected. They do not focus on the push, they focus on you. They call your sister, who testifies that you did not attend your mother's funeral. They call Delia from the newsstand, who says, "You seemed calm, always calm, never upset about anything." The prosecutor asks the jury to consider what kind of person can live in an airport for 3 months and feel nothing. What kind of person can hear that their mother is dead and not cry? The crime becomes your affect, your flatness, your refusal to perform the emotional legibility that society demands as proof of humanity. Irving Goffman wrote that all social life is a performance, that we present selves crafted for specific audiences. You have failed to perform, and in failing you have become monstrous in the eyes of 12 strangers in a jury box. You are convicted, the sentence is severe, far beyond what the act itself would warrant. Appeals fail, years pass in a cell that is, in its own way, another terminal. A space designed to prevent rest. Lights that never fully dim. Schedules imposed by others. This architecture, you have lived in it before. In the final years, you think about the airport often. You think about the hum of the ventilation. You think about the departure board clicking through destinations you would never visit. You think about Delia handing you a newspaper. You think about the automated announcement playing its 14th minute loop into eternity. You understand, now that you were never detached. You were simply honest. The universe does not grieve. The stars do not perform sadness when another star dies. You lived in a non-place and became a non-person. And in that becoming, you found the only freedom available, the freedom of not pretending you die on a Wednesday. In a facility in central Illinois, 23 years after the night at gate F3, no one attends the service. The chaplain reads a passage. Outside, planes cross the sky in long white lines, going somewhere, coming from somewhere, carrying people who are briefly, beautifully, nowhere at all.